Recent polling in the House and Senate suggests that 2018 could be an unusual year, with the two chambers diverging in outcomes. Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing appears to be a key potential turning point. Joining us to discuss the reality of the potential blue wave is Talking Points correspondent Anthony Dabbundo. Anthony, thanks so much for joining us. And what shifts have we seen in the polling recently? You know, we've seen Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing. That's been leading, to some shifts in the polls. But what else have we seen?
Absolutely. Over the last month, we've seen that the House polls have remained relatively similar. Democrats are favored, according to 538's election forecast, to be the favorite and about 80% to win the House. We've seen, though, in the Senate, however, that the numbers have changed significantly. Republicans had their chances as low as 65%. Now they're back up to 80%. And the reason for that is because we've seen multiple Senate races in Republican states that have become more and more Republican. For example, as Michael was just talking about, Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz, there were polls showing a month ago that they were, neck and neck. Beto was down a couple points. Now, a new poll from the New York Times has Beto down 8 points, down 10 points, down even 12 points. If you look at North Dakota, Kevin Cramer, he was projected to lose originally. More and more polls are showing him up by almost as much as double digits over Democratic incumbent Heidi Heitkamp. And then if you look across at other races like Tennessee, former Governor Phil Bredesen was favored early in the polls, but as Marsha Blackburn has continued to consolidate her base, she has taken the lead in the polls by up to double digits. So these seats that the Democrats needed to flip, they're just not there anymore. It doesn't mean it's not a blue wave.
All right, so I want to go deeper into those shifts because we talk about the differences in congressional House races and Senate House races. So it's retreating, but why is it retreating? What are the reasons that we're seeing some of these flips now? Not so sure.
Well, the majority of the congressional House districts that we've been covering closely on Talking Points and we've been looking into have been in very blue or very purple states. So for example, California, there's three seats held by Republicans in California. California 45 is the notable one with Mimi Walters. Katie Porter is now favored to win that race. It's a suburban district in Orange County. If you look at Pennsylvania 1 with Brian Fitzpatrick, Fitzpatrick is an incumbent Republican who's running in suburban Philadelphia. His polls are showing he might even be down in that race to Scott Wallace. So there's multiple races in New Jersey, New Jersey 7, in New York, even with this race, John Katko and Dana Balter, where it's appearing that the Democrats have a higher chance, but that just isn't translating into the deeper red Republican states that Trump won by 30, 40 points. I mean, other than Joe Manchin and John Tester in Montana and West Virginia, there's been multiple Republican states that are just too Republican for the Democrats' incumbents to win.
And speaking of those states that Trump won by 30, 40 points, I mean, there is a big difference between a midterm year and a presidential election year, but what are some of the comparisons we can make to the 2016 key races we saw?
Right, so a lot of people thought in 2016 that it was called the Trump effect. All of these rural areas had incredible turnout. They went very red, while the suburban districts' turnout was so-so, and they trended to the Democrats. Now, the question was, with Trump not being on the ballot, how will that change in 2018? Now, Trump's not on the ballot, but the polls are suggesting that, especially with the Kavanaugh hearings, a lot of the strong conservatives have been very motivated recently. Now, that could be Kavanaugh, that could just be it's election season, tensions are heating. But the reality is that all those Republican voters seem riled up. They seem ready to come to the polls in the rural areas, and the suburbanites aren't happy with President Trump. He's very unfavorable there. So you have those Democrats pushing back, and that's why there's House seats in play in the congressional districts in the suburbs.
Really interesting.